Problem number 5 is going to be a little bit different than what we're used to seeing at this point. All right, now we see standard form equal to 0, so our intention would be to try to factor it. But here's the thing, see that 2? There are no factors of 2 that add up to this 5. So the sad news here is that this is a prime polynomial, which means you cannot factor it. So that means we have to do square rooting. But Miss Morrow, how on earth am I going to do square rooting if there's a linear term? Well, I said that this was going to happen, so here it goes. We are going to have to complete the square to get it into vertex form so that we can solve this by square rooting, okay? So we're going to complete the square. So I'm going to do that off to the side over here. All right, so we're going to have x squared plus 5x. We're going to add a number and subtract a number, and then have the plus 2 equal to 0, okay? All right, so the question is what goes in that spot? Now, we've talked about this more than once. We need to do b over 2 squared, and that's what we add and subtract. b is positive 5. 5 half squared is 25 over 4. So that's what's going to go in this spot, 25 over 4 and 25 over 4. All right? Crazy, 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 I know, but that's what we're going to do. All right, so now we're going to factor the first 3 terms down to x plus b over 2, 5 over 2 squared. Okay, and I just noticed, some of you might have noticed too, I forgot the square there. Sorry about that. All right, and now, to continue on, I have minus 25 over 4, and I've got a plus 2. I'm going to make that plus 8 over 4, so I have a common denominator, so I can add them together. All right, so now I really have x plus 5 over 2 squared. All right, negative 25 plus 8, let's see, negative 25 plus 8, that's negative 17. And now I have vertex form. So I can move the 17 over 4 to the other side. Now I can square root both sides. All right, so here we go. Square root the left, square root the right. The right is a number, so I put a plus or minus with it. And now I'm going to get x plus 5 over 2 is equal to plus or minus. The square root of 17, I can't simplify it all. But the square root of 4 is just a plain old 2. So that one is coming out of the square root. Okay? So now where do I go from there? The only thing I really have left to do is I need to subtract the 5 over 2 over. So I'm going to go like this, subtract 5 over 2, subtract 5 over 2, and that's going to bring me to x equals negative 5 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 2. Or, if you prefer, you can, in fact, since it has a common denominator, put it all over 2 and write negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 17. That's actually the better way to write it, but at this stage, I'm happy with either one. But on my homework answer key, you're going to see the bottom answer, not the top answer. All right? So something that is written in standard form but is prime means I'm going to have to complete the square so that I can solve by square rooting. Now we're going to do this one more time. And that's in problem number 6, and that's our final example for this lesson. All right, here we go. So problem number 6, I see 3y squared plus 4 equals 6y. All right, so I'm going to try to rewrite it so that maybe I can factor it. All right, so I'm going to have 3y squared minus 6y plus 4 is equal to 0. Now, the trick to figure out if this factors or not is to start with a times c, so 3 times 4 is 12. And ask yourself, are there any factors of 12 that add up to 6? So I've got a 1 and a 12, a 2 and a 6, a 3 and a 4. But none of those can add up to negative 6. So guess what? We've got another prime polynomial. So I'm going to get rid of this because it's going to be in my way. This is prime, which means I am again going to complete the square. And I'm going to shorthand it with a square. All right, so we're going to complete the square here. All right, so we're going to factor out that 3. All right, so I'm going to make this 3 times y squared minus 2y. And I'm going to leave a spot to do my plus and minus. And I've got plus 4 equal to 0. Okay. And now I need to do my b over 2 magic. B over 2 squared. Oops, forgot the equal sign. Silly goose. Negative 2 over 2 squared is negative 1 squared, which is positive 1. So I'm going to put a 1 and a 1. All right. Now the first 3 terms are going to factor. So that part right there factors. All right. Into parentheses squared with a y minus 1 because there was a negative 1 right there. So that's why it's y minus 1. And then I still have the 3 there. And I'm going to have to multiply 3 times the negative 1 to get the negative 3 on the outside. Then I have my original plus 4 equal to 0. Cleaning it up slightly, and I'm going to get 3 times y minus 1 squared plus 1 is equal to 0. All right, so now if I slide down, give myself just a little bit more room to work here, I'm going to isolate the squared expression. So 3 times y minus 1 squared, take away the 1 equals negative 1, divide out the 3 now, y minus 1 squared equals negative 1/3. And now I need to square root both sides. Square root the left, square root the right, put a plus or minus in there because I'm square rooting a number. Now I'm square rooting a negative again. So I'm going to turn this into y minus 1 equals plus or minus I, and I'm going to do square root 1 over square root 3, which is really just plus or minus I times 1 over the square root of 3. So it's just I over the square root of 3. And we can't leave a square root in the bottom of a fraction. So let's fix that right away. Now I'm kind of out of space here. Let's see, we're going to go up and over. Up and over. So I've got y minus 1 equals plus or minus, whoops, I forgot the I root 3 over 3. Now I need to add over this 1, which is the same as adding 3 over 3. So I have a common denominator, okay? You want to have a common denominator as often as possible. So we're going to end up with y equals 3 plus or minus I root 3 all over 3. And that's my final answer. These completing the square problems are going to be involved. They take a lot of practice, so be ready to work with them, okay? But that's the end, guys. So please let me know what questions you have, and good luck with your homework.